The Sunfallen Road, Chapter 17. I went home, and I sat in the library for a long while, thinking. I could not hear Silver. He must be out. I wondered where he could be at such an hour, for it was past 1 a.m. The problem with the story the priest had told me was that I had no idea where to begin. I didn't know where Etienne-Gabert was, although given the time and lands in which Solomon lived, it had to lie in the east, middle, or far. Those were lands I was unfamiliar with. I shook my head. This was insane. I was giving serious thought to pursuing a lost city in some story. The voices were whispering again. I heard the front door shut, and I roused myself from my chair and went down to meet Silver. He looked wan and worried, and even more so when he saw me. "What's wrong?" I asked without preamble. He shook his head. "Nothing. I had to go and help Carrie with something." Carrie was a professor at the university he worked at. Like him, she taught philosophy, so they worked together a great deal at school. He walked past me into the living room and sat down heavily in a chair. I followed him. "Tell me what's on your mind," I said quietly, though not without a trace of sharpness. He sighed, loosened his tie. "She came on to me." I blinked. She'd asked me to help her grade some papers. She's a little overwhelmed because of all the classes she's teaching this semester, and my course load is lighter, so she asked me to help. "And while you were grading?" I said. He nodded and lowered his head. "Did you touch her?" "No." "Did you ask her to stop?" "Yes." "Did she?" I asked with even more of an edge in my voice now. "No," he said. "So I told her I had to leave, and I came home." I knelt in front of him and raised his chin with my hands. I looked into his eyes. I read him, and hard. He was telling the truth. "Then don't worry," I said, and I kissed him gently. "You've done nothing wrong." He wrapped his arms around me and sighed. "I love you." "I love you too," I said. "Come on, you should get some rest." After Silver had gone to bed, I heard a knock at the door. I was surprised, for I hadn't expected anyone that day, but I roused myself from the machine room and opened the door. Lady Ariane stood there. "Your Grace." "Come in," I said politely, and led her into the living room after closing the door. "Thank you," she said, seating herself in the living room. "How can I help you?" I asked, taking a seat adjacent to her. "I need assistance in garnering the loyalty of the Berlin court," she said. I wasn't surprised. "Why?" "His Grace trusted you beyond any other vampire he associated with," she said. "And when he passed away, since you had left, I was next in line of succession. But the court was expecting you as regent, not I, and they do not trust me, even now." "Have you given them reason to?" I asked. She laughed. "I have given them no reason not to." "I'm afraid that isn't good enough, Your Grace," I said bluntly. "A court's trust must be earned. It isn't simply given. I thought that if you returned with me to Berlin, serving in the same role as you served Klaus, perhaps they would come to trust me more. I could use someone with your skills. You're very talented, Lady Aguilar. I hear nothing but praise from those you have served." She gestured to my dragon ring, a high mark for one who is not a regent. I looked at her. She was in earnest, and yet there was something she was not telling me. I couldn't think that she had had anything to do with Klaus's death, and yet I knew there was something she had done, something that was whispered about, and it was those whispers that carried away the trust of the Berlin court from her. The Black Clan, as I have mentioned, are known for their covertness, and some of them fall victim to darker magics. I had no way of knowing exactly what it was that Ariane had done, or had been involved with, but whatever it was, she would have to fight hard to bury it, just as I had had to fight free of the Shia's reputation all those years ago to earn the respect of the Berlin court. "Your Grace, if you want the court to trust you, you must earn it," I said. "My presence cannot help you, nor will it." "How can I persuade you?" she asked. I saw that she was truly in earnest, even desperate. I understood why. "You cannot," I said, gently. "My life is here. I have a loving husband who adores his city and his job, and I myself have maintained a successful career. I am through serving regents, and I will not serve you." She bristled and got to her feet. "I am sorry that you have wasted your time coming here," I said softly. "But I will give you some advice, Your Grace, if I may. If you would have people trust you, be trustworthy. That is the only way you can earn it." Her eyes flickered. She nodded to me, both by way of understanding and also by way of farewell, and without another word, she swept from the room and left the house, shutting the front door behind her. I sighed, and my hands curled into fists. She had stirred me up. He was quick enough, my husband. A week after I'd gone to visit Carrie, he came home one evening and found me in the machine room. He looked bewildered. "Something wrong?" I asked. "Carrie's been acting funny," he said. "Won't look at me, won't even shake hands. She barely speaks 2 words when I ask her a question." He looked at me directly. "You did something, didn't you?" "I did something," I said simply, and while he frowned, he did not pry. Later that evening, after he'd settled down some about my business with Carrie, I told him the story that Father Reginald had shared with me. He considered. "It may only be symbolic, the story." I nodded. "I know, but a part of me thinks it may be true. How would you even start to find a place like that, though?" I shook my head. "I don't know. Maybe I should start praying." I chuckled at this. "It isn't a bad idea," he said. I laughed. "You can't be serious. I can't pray to a god I don't believe in." "So pray to a god you don't believe in," he said. "What could go wrong?"